Goodness me. I mean, James, this is a two-part question to you. This is really starting to bite politically. It's coming up unprompted in polling groups, I'm told. I hear people as I get around the city talking about it, again, unprompted. But also, I reckon it's a bit rich for him to turn up in the Pacific and say to all of them, you know, you've got to be careful about China. Don't get seduced by their money or their power. He's just come from China. He looks pretty seduced by both trade dollars, and comments like this from the Chinese Premier. Have a listen.
I see on social media of China that there are many sharing of short videos about your trip to China, including the video of you running along the Huangpu River with a yellow jersey. People were saying that we have a handsome boy coming from Australia.
I mean, handsome boy, seriously. This is all done deliberately. Come in spinner, he falls for it.
Well, Peter, you know what? I'll tell you what. I hadn't actually watched that clip. I'd read it, but I hadn't actually watched it until you played it here. I tell you what, Anthony Albanese, Peter, strikes me as a very cheap date here because he has fallen for the oldest trick in the book, this sort of flattery, you know, and we don't know all the different ways in which China is going to take advantage of this because it feels very much like Albanese is much more interested, and I think this has always been a labor issue when it comes to foreign policy. They see it solely through the prism of domestic politics and domestic headlines. So he thinks he's gotten some wins on wine and lobster. He had Don Farrell holding crustaceans up in Shanghai the other day. Great. But, you know, what is this actually going to wind up meaning for Australia, for our security, for our economy? And I really just worry that they're laughing at the PM in Beijing now.
Oh, exactly right. And any time there's going to be a skirmish in the future, they'll just take the lobsters or any other trade red wine off the table until such time as we kowtow and they put it back on again. This is the way it's been the pattern in recent years, particularly under Xi. Let's go to that issue, if we can, in New South Wales, Trudy. The planned blockade of an Israeli transport ship at Port Botany this Saturday. The Premier, Chris Minns, he's been pretty forceful. He says you can't stop trade. This, of course, is in the backdrop of those Opera House protests that went so badly in Sydney, I think badly for the government as well. There are laws now in relation to protesters blocking roads and ports. 2 years in prison, they say, fines of up to $22,000. Given we've barely seen an arrest in New South Wales over anti-Semitism, what do you think is likely to happen on the weekend?
Well, the police certainly have plenty of notice for this one, don't they? It's not until Saturday and it's been widely telegraphed now. So the police have time to prepare for this. So you can't imagine we're actually going to see a disruption at the port of Botany on Saturday. But it's just another problem ahead of Christmas. Think about there's already potential for union strikes at the port, which we always see year after year in terms of just delaying supply chains getting into the country. So look, I don't think it's actually going to disrupt them given how much notice they've given, but it seems like one of those things that just keeps popping up right across the country, these sort of protests.